first of all, I am so I just want you to know it is an incredible honor that you would join me, and like it's literally so good to talk to you. Just know that I'm really grateful for this.
It's good to see you too, Darlene.
I feel so cheated that I never actually got to know you. But like I kind of feel like I did secondhand because of like everything that was left in your wake. Because there was a lot left in your wake after you were gone.
Indeed.
So, I'm just like, I'm just overjoyed that you're actually alive. And, I mean, who are you? That was probably not a very sophisticated way of asking that question. I'm sorry.
It's all right, dear. You seem a bit flustered.
Yeah,
There's
I am.
No
100%.
reason to. I'm not going to eat you. Thin blood isn't worth my time, personally.
I mean, no, it's okay. I don't know exactly what I taste like. I know that Prudence tried once and she dry heaved immediately. So.
And I'm a Ventrue, and our tastes are even more particular than Prudence.
I know that you guys have like a very refined palate as like a general rule across the board. But.
Rarefied would be more accurate.
Rarefied. I'm going to write that
I
word
did try
down.
to meet you before. I did try to meet you before. The Cotta wouldn't let me anywhere near you for some reason. More lies and deceit, I suppose.
They wouldn't let just about anybody near me, except for whoever was on the list, except for the sanctioned, like, designated Amethyst and Craven's friends, I guess. And I couldn't, there wasn't really anything I could do about that because they had my daughter. I have a daughter. By the way, I have a living daughter. That's why I behaved in a lot of the ways that I behaved. When I was in St. Petersburg, Isabel had my child.
Of course she did. That does not...
Yes.
surprise me. Princes like to control one's children.
So I've seen manifest. But, most people weren't allowed to get near me. And this was always sold to me as something that was being done for my safety. Because of how dangerous kindred society was.
Isolation is the first tactic one does to manipulate someone to foster a sense of trust. Mm-hmm. I believe it's called the, Stockholm Syndrome?
Stockholm Syndrome. I feel like that's kind of become one of the core pillars of my personality, truth be told. For now, at least. But, yes. Yeah. Absolutely no way that you were going to be allowed near me or that I was going to be allowed to get to know you in any capacity for my safety.
Oh, no. They were given a gift by the prince, and they wanted to keep that resource for themselves.
I'm trying not to be bitter about being taken away from my human life, because I was doing fine. I really was. I think I could have kept it up. And being, effectively sold to Isabel's friends on a silver platter. I try not to get bitter about that. I really do.
You have every right to be bitter.
Thank you.
Kindred are not kind.
That's very healing. Thank you.
You're not the only one who was dragged out of her mortal life into one full of lies.
Who else?
Pretty much everyone, but I'm one of those victims. I had children too.
Oh.
3 out of the 7 survived. And, well, I simply wouldn't let anyone come between me and my children. Even when I became undead.
Good for you. I'm sorry to hear about the ones that didn't make it. I really am.
It was the 1800s, dear. Medicine hadn't quite caught up. Childbirth was still dangerous and disease abound.
I heard, like, the idea of strep throat being a terminal illness is absolutely nuts. I can't imagine. I'm glad that 3 of them made it.
They did. They lived long, fulfilling lives, which was all I could ask for at that point.
Good. I'm happy to hear it.
For who? Oh, sorry.
No. I get told a lot of things about Ventrue, and one of those things is that basically that y'all don't get yoinked. Like, I got yoinked.
Technically, my embrace was a planned potential before I was even born.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, some of us higher clans are known for our breeding programs, one could say.
Yeah. I'd heard about that more as a Giovanni thing, but all I ever heard about was basically, from a Hecata lens. So I didn't know if this was something that you volunteered for or if it was chosen for you.
Oh, I thought it was my choice. It wasn't.
I'm sorry.
But it was presented to me that way. A woman in the 1800s as a widow does not have a lot of rights. Well, I wasn't quite a widow again at that point. But I saw an opportunity to take control of my own life as the way it was presented, and so I did. Not knowing my sire had laid the path before me ages ago.
Yeah. I'd be furious.
And she's dead too, so I can't even confront her about it.
Oh no.
Or, at least, as far as I know, she's dead. Clearly, everyone thought I was dead, and I'm not, so...
Thank heavens. I'm really glad to hear that.
It was not an easy recovery. I was in torpor for over a month.
What happened? I couldn't ask too many questions. I never actually found out what happened. All I got was that Lady Catherine died in a terrible accident, and everyone is blaming us for it.
They said it was an accident?
Yes. They denied it every step of the way. They denied it every step of the way that they were involved. They swore. They were indignant. They were furious at the suggestion that they might have been involved, that it was a murder.
No, it was fully a planned assassination. Some inconsequential Ventrue, who I shall not name because his name does not bear to be left on the records of history, was shown up into our city. No sire. The prince thrust him into my responsibility as an adoptive sire.
They made you...
Isabel repeatedly forced me to be an adoptive sire to those without sires, but she wouldn't let me adopt any of the ones that were truly the childer I wanted.
Wow. I take it that I wasn't offered as an option. Not that I would be a good option, but I take it that wasn't a choice.
No.
Nice.
My childer, no, they are my childer, even if I was not allowed to officially adopt them in that horrible city. But one showed up, a doctor with certain skills, and I knew immediately. Oh, the prince and Amethyst will find these skills valuable for their secret society they think I don't know has entered the city.
The Red Salon?
Well, yes,
The Red
that
Salon.
horrible thing. I vehemently oppose the allowance of that city. We didn't need Boston's vote, but I was overruled and thrust out of the conversation, and they seemed so determined to keep me from knowing anything was going on, even though I'm a Ventrue. I'm not stupid. I know when a society transferring blood is. Anyway, I offered his skill set to the court. Isabel immediately sent him off to Elisabetta and Amethyst and their little Red Salon group, and immediately they sunk their fangs into him, poisoning his mind against me. Truly, I didn't care much for the child. As long as he stayed out of my way, I didn't care. I wanted him to succeed. I want all my Ventrue to succeed. He was turned to believe that I wanted him dead. I only wanted him dead after he kept threatening to kill me. And so, over the course of many months, he colluded with them, lying to me. My dear child, John Sexton, was able to root out the plot by pretending to be a friend and wanting to overthrow me as well.
I've heard he's kind of made something of himself these days.
I'm very proud of him. Prince of Philadelphia.
Ooh.
A hard war was fought for that, but he does me proud. Anyway, we had hard evidence that he was gathering materials to create massive explosives that would level half the city and therefore cause massive masquerade breaches. And we had on record that he wanted to kill me. I would have simply punished him and staked him myself and had the matter over with, but Elisabetta and Isabel and others kept trying to pull my very own power from me. They have no business messing with Ventrue Praetor's business. Praetor is not a Camarilla position, it is a Ventrue position. No Toreador should touch it.
What?
But they did keep interfering. So I was little afraid to use my own power in my own clan haven in my own territory. So instead of just staking the child, John and I presented the evidence to the sheriff and the prince. And you know what the prince had me do?
Kiss them on the cheek and pat them on the head and apologize to them for the inconvenience, I'm guessing.
Treated me like a dog, telling me to investigate for myself if this was true. You know, don't make the sheriff do it. Make the Ventrue Praetor, the Ventrue Elder of the city, do this when I already have proof. But no, ask the Hakadah if what he said about having them adopt him is really true. Reluctantly, I obeyed this ridiculous order. Of course, the Hakadah denied such a thing was possible. Such a thing was true. Unfortunately, that alerted Craven that we had evidence. He ran off to the unnamed Ventrue, who, in a panic, set up bombs around our clan haven, and he activated them during the Thin Blood attack, supposedly killing me. I barely survived. I'm still not quite certain how I survived such a fall and explosion.
Divine Providence.
But perhaps the strength of my bloodline. I don't know. I could not even crawl away. I was so weak near death's door. My ghoul, my servitor, found me, and he somehow survived the blast as well and dragged me to safety all the way to Mexico City, where I harbored with my friend, Premier Fiorenza Savona. When I recovered, I found out I'd been declared dead, and Ventrue were left in shambles. My assassin was reluctantly killed, and none of his conspirators were accused either. And, well, Fiorenza decided that it was best I stay in Mexico City for the time being, help her deal with the Sabbat problem there. I did not wish to abandon the Ventrue in my care there, but I didn't have much choice in the matter, unfortunately. They can be angry at me all they like. They have the right to. That is what happened. It was a planned assassination. We had all the evidence in the world, and that corrupt city that can't even call itself Camarilla failed to uphold it.
If you had come back, the same thing would have just happened and would have been denied and would have happened again until they eventually succeeded.
Oh, I'm well aware. As I mentioned earlier, the Toreador tried to take my praetorship from me, which they had no right to do. They staked me. Staked a praetor for being a praetor. I mean, the Tremere were in all the fuss, of course. If a Toreador prince and her runaway seneschal child think that they can remove a praetor from her position, well, what's stopped them from removing a Tremere regent? Or any other leader of a clan?
Yeah. That's a fair question.
And they kept it all hush-hush, of course. The Directorate would have done something. No Ventrue would accept such an insult. And yet I had to endure. Because of the corrupt roses entangling thorns around that city. I will give Isabel this. She's good at manipulating people for her own ends.
Yeah. She definitely had me convinced that she had my best interest in mind. And they kind of had me fooled for a good long time.
Isolation.
Yeah.
Give you people to trust instead of letting you make your own.
Yeah. Wasn't until they left, and wasn't until they left that I started, gradually, the truth started creeping in. But yes, Ventrue, the things I were taught was you definitely wanted to kill me. The only reason that you said hello, the only reason, oh yeah. No, not just kill me, but like do Tremere type of experiments on me. Like put my head in a jar of formaldehyde and like, I don't know, put bamboo shoots underneath my fingernails or whatever.
Yes,
like, no, you were a monster. That's how it was sold to me.
I'm going to waste my time personally killing a Thinblood who is a resource. I'm going to convince Islington, one of the kindest men I know, to run experiments for myself on you. Yes, this is very in character.
Yes. Everybody had it out for me. You especially, the Ventrue, the Tremere, the Anarchs. All just like number one priority. Like y'all woke up every evening and Darlene was like the front and center thing on your mind that you thought of first thing in the evening was how do we get our hands on that thin blood to like perform cruel acts of experimentation on her until she eventually dies. And that's what was sold.
As if Amethyst wasn't running a local sector of the Red Salon which do the exact thing you're describing. Which is why I didn't want it in my city. Kidnapping childer to feed on for others? Unacceptable.
I was told that Isabel had a handmaid. And that's how she stayed fed. That she had a handmaid who she had been like best friends with for centuries. And that's how she stayed fed. What was through a bond of friendship. I never met the handmaid. We never saw her, but yes, that's the
One
story
could
that
have
was fed.
existed.
Hmm?
Actually, many of us elders in the city offered our own blood to keep her satiated. She didn't want mine, of course. Not that I technically offered it. But she drank from Islington. She drank from many of the Tremere, several others. All to try and keep the hunger of the beckoning away. Cowardly, if you ask me.
She ruined my life to bring me
Of
in to
course.
create that formula. And then at the last minute, when I was so close to making it, like if I had a month or two, I could have had that thing knocked out. She decided that she wanted to be done, and she wanted to shuffle off into the sunset anyways. It's-
The woman who started a rebellion against Tampa for 6 years or so? 7 years? And she wandered off into the sunrise?
yeah. She decided she didn't want it after all. She wanted to be done.
Of course, she wasn't meant to rule. And she clearly didn't have the guts to stick with what she said she would and face the consequences.
I'm not trying to kiss your butt about this, but for real, I've been to a few cities. When I come to Philly, that's going to be city number 4.
I think you'll like it.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm running out of bridges to burn. But like the thing that I've noticed, because usually you have like some haywire situations like Edinburgh, but usually the princes of cities, they're going to be Ventrue and they're going to be or they're going to be Toreador. And when Toreador and Ventrue make deals, it's the difference between an overt contract and a covert contract. And Toreador make covert contracts. You don't know what you're signing up for. That there's things that are implied but never agreed upon. You don't know that there's a favor being done. You don't know that you don't know that there is a price to be paid, what that price is, what the terms are. It's all just sort of vibes and assumptions. Ventrue do overt contracts. Like when a Ventrue has an expectation of you, they tell you what that expectation is, and they lay it out completely. What the price, like what the terms are, what the parameters are. It's based on real, tangible things and not vibes, relationships.
And that's the problem with mixing business with pleasure, as the Toreador love to do.
It's all they can do. I don't like them. I have a beef with them.
I'm sure there are a few Toreador who are tolerable out there, but for the most part, I despise the clan.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. We all do bad stuff. We all do bad stuff. It's just there's nothing else we can do. But Toreador, they'll do the vilest things in the world, and they'll feel morally justified about it because they felt bad about themselves afterwards. It's really gross, and I really hate them. But I'm sure you have way more reasons to do that than I do.
I do. I do not feel like discussing a clan who does not deserve much discussion, though.
Yeah, I could complain about them for hours. But no, that was the story that was sold. The only reason you were talking to me was to get your hands on me for some sort of bizarre torture and experimentation. Same with all the other Ventrue. Like I hope that John Sexton doesn't recognize me when I come into the city, because I was a big time jerk to him when I met him that one time.
He will recognize you.
Oh,
He'll know it wasn't your fault. He is... Well, perhaps not with me, but overall he's understanding.
I guess we'll see.
You'll be fine. He didn't kill me on sight when he saw I was alive, so that's fine.
I would hope he wouldn't.
There was a lot of anger among those I left behind that I had abandoned them. So I do not fault them for their anger against me.
I mean, what else could you do?
That's what I asked, but sometimes emotions aren't logical.
Look, if someone's going to give you grief about what you shouldn't have done, they really need to have at least some suggestion of what you should have done.
Return back. Help them. I just showed up 6 months too late, in their opinion. But it's all right, dear.
Okay.
I did what I came to do. And if they don't understand me, that's their prerogative.
It's okay. Harsh, but I guess I wouldn't understand.
I have too many enemies in my life to worry whether my allies have truly forgiven me or not.
Islington seems to like you. That was another story that got sold.
I would consider him one of my closest confidants.
Lucky you.
He's a good man who tries to defy his more cruel nature. Kept me from doing certain things from time to time. So many people I wanted to kill. He's a
Kind of
good
wish
man.
he'd been able to.
Oh, certainly. But the timing wasn't right. And I simply couldn't be accused of killing certain members of the court now, could I?
Nope.
Already had that happen. As if I killed the Tremere Primogen. He was a nuisance that I wanted dead, sure, but that sloppily of a death wouldn't be me, and I certainly wouldn't be caught.
In St. Petersburg or Philadelphia?
Oh, St. Petersburg, there was an obnoxious Tremere who acted more like a Toreador, honestly.
Blech.
Who, came to me and insisted that he could help me get a position in court. As if I needed such help. Before the whole scandal, there was talks of making me seneschal. And even then, I didn't need his influence to exert my own. And then, somehow, someone told him I was plotting to kill him. Sure, I wanted him dead. That didn't mean I was actively plotting it. And then, what do you know? A month later, he shows up dead. And they immediately assume it was me. Beer cans on the beach filled with explosives? How crude and sloppy. Also, I didn't even rouse... Beer cans with explosives in them. Strewn across the beach. He ran into them and poof! Ash.
That could have just been some kids.
I think
that might not have even been kindred. Like, teenagers will just do things like that.
I think it was attributed to hunters, but I'm not sure. Regardless, it wasn't me. I didn't even rouse from torpor at that time, and I was currently under house arrest in the Ventrue territory, so it wasn't me. I mean, so sloppy and unelegant. Goodness. Was not me. I was thrilled he was dead, though.
I could see the hunters doing it.
Could be. I know not. I don't particularly care. But, yes, Islington's a good man. I'm sure when he's there in Philadelphia now, actually. He's the regent in Primogen.
Right.
And he's got a child, apparently? I got a letter from him. He says I should be angry about it for some reason, and I'm not quite sure why. He said I'd know when I'd see the child. Alas. Embraced child.
Oh, man.
Something to be angry about when I see her. I know not why, but I doubt I'll be allowed in Philadelphia anytime soon. The Ventrue keep me busy elsewhere.
You're not allowed in the city?
Technically not. Not allowed. I've recently become a Ventrue Lictor, which is the equivalent of a Camarilla Archon. I go around solving problems for the Ventrue wherever I'm asked to be by those who have authority over me. And, well, part of the reason given this position was to keep me away from Philadelphia and from helping John be
Congratulations. It does sound like an honor, even if there may have been a handful of shady motives behind it.
It is an honor. It indicates one is on the path to becoming a Ventrue Strategos, which is the equivalent of a Justicar.
I was pretty well kept under a rock for most of my time in Camarilla Cities.
Structure.
They needed me to make alchemy, and anything that didn't really help me make alchemy wasn't really that important. I don't know what those words are, I'm afraid.
A Justicar is a member of the Camarilla who works directly for the Inner Circle, the ones in charge of the Camarilla. No one knows who's on the Inner Circle, but there is a member of each of the Camarilla clan. The Justicars know who is on the Inner Circle, and they go out doing their bidding. When a Justicar shows up in your city, that's bad news, because it means you've messed up that badly to catch their personal attention. Archons are one of the servants of the Justicar. Multiple Archons to each Justicar. They go into a city, which is also a problem. That means you've screwed up bad enough to get an Archon, and maybe a Justicar is on the way, if you're continuing to do horribly. But Archons go in to solve problems. So with the Ventrue, I am someone who goes and solves problems, and you better listen to me, because I am a representative of our Ventrue Inner Circle. If you screw up badly enough, I'll go get my superior, who speaks even more directly for all of the Ventrue superiors.
I think you would make a great Archon. And a great Justicar.
Thank you. As a Lictor, I'm allowed to take Camarilla titles. If I was to become a Strategos, that would not be. But for now, I do as my Strategos tells me to, going wherever the Ventrue need help solving some sort of issue that requires a Lictor to put it together. The point is, people do not want to see me coming, because it means bad news. So.
Well, you're there to solve a problem. Maybe they should be grateful.
Ventrue are prideful creatures, dear. They don't like someone else telling them how to do things, even if that person is correct on telling them so.
I guess I can understand hurt feelings.
We're very prideful.
It's not a bad thing.
Imagine putting 10 of the most prideful people in the world in one room, though.
Yeah, I could see how that would have some friction. I can see how that would get tense, yes.
Which is why I'm required to come in and smooth things out for them. They probably could have done it themselves, but they refuse to agree, and so I go in, get them all in line like squabbling children, and once things are cleared up, I move on to wherever I'm needed next. Though, there have been many occasions the city was in such turmoil, Lictor came in, fixed everything, and became prince.
Oh, dang.
Not that I want the title of prince. Too much responsibility, not enough freedom to do as I actually please.
It feels like you
Which,
would just have a target on your back
oh, certainly.
constantly.
The real power is behind the throne. That is where I lie in specialty. Which is, again, part of why they didn't want me sitting behind the throne in Philadelphia.
Yeah. I think the word is nepotism. I could be wrong. I think that's the right word, though.
That could be part of it. They don't
Okay.
want me strengthening him too much.
No. Isabel. Isabel,
Oh,
like her
Isabel.
kids got everything.
Oh,
Like
absolutely. It
the
was
worthless
ridiculous.
rugrats.
And Elizabeth wasn't even actually her child. She was adopted. She didn't want that little secret getting out, but
I wouldn't want
I
to claim
knew.
her either.
For some reason, Isabel did claim her, and then Elizabeth toited that around as if it meant much more than it was. There is some value in bloodlines, of course. But a lot to know of what a kindred is worth is their own merits, and Elizabeth was lacking.
Yeah.
I mean, if all you can do is seduce a
Yes.
maddened Hakata and pretend you gather information, but in really you just bully everyone, that's not really power or achievements now, is it?
No. No, it's not. And she hid behind Craven for everything.
Here's my attack dog.
I was lucky, and I paid for it. I paid for it in bone, but I was lucky enough in Las Vegas to be in a position where I could outmaneuver her a little bit.
Did she move to an anarch cesspool?
Yes, she became a baron. She became a baron.
Was her adoptive sire too overbearing? Was she upset that she had to pay for humiliating the Hakaara and deal with Prince Roger de Camden because she refused to obey Camarilla etiquette?
Yes. Yes, she
The
was very
Black
sore
Widow
about
of
that.
Spain
She
brought
was
down
very
to her knee.
she was very sore about that.
Oh, that was my fault, actually.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yes, and she had no idea, which was the best part. All I had to do was tell my dear friend Prudence that, Elizabeth was disrespecting a certain member of her family and making the Hakaata seem like, attack dogs for the other clans instead of their own respected group. And then she ran off to Camden, and I didn't have to say a word, and... Oh, Elizabeth went away for diplomatic reasons, not at all to be scolded and punished by the only Hakaata prince in the world.
He tossed her around like a rag doll.
Of course he did. I wouldn't want to cross Roger de Camden like...
No, he sounds like a good prince, actually, but he doesn't sound like a nice guy. No, I thought that had just been Prudence.
No, I put it in Prudence's ear, and that way Elizabeth couldn't put it back to me because she hated me.
Good for you.
I know. I removed my biggest enemy from the city and humiliated her, all because of her own actions. I didn't have to accuse her of anything she didn't do.
Good for you. 100%.
And I know the prince. I knew he would react poorly to such news.
Because he knows that reputation matters. And Craven was crapping. It was like making the Hakaata look very, very weak and very, very bad. And that didn't stop.
Yes. He couldn't control himself and literally looked like Elizabeth's attack dog. How pathetic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The subservience was real and noticed.
And he was a lost puppy when she was gone, and I was laughing.
He
They
was very
dragged you
sad
all
and
the way out
miserable.
to the desert, you poor thing.
Yeah. Um, I actually went with Merrick. I did not know the Hecata were in that city. Um,
The Zamisi Anarch?
yeah. Okay. Hear me out. Hear me out on him. Okay. Hear me out on Merrick. He's actually a real sweetheart, or not. He can be a sweetheart if that's what you need to fill your soul. He was a good husband. He was. Um,
Husband?
yeah. We did. I mean, it wasn't. It was kind of like a common law marriage. Like we just. I don't know. At some point, I called him my husband, and he didn't correct me, or he called me his wife, and I didn't correct him, and it just kind of was. Um, when the Hecata left the city, I was still there, and there wasn't really anyone guarding the territory, and he capitalized on that, um, and came to my apartment one night and asked me. He asked me to come with him. I'm sure that Lady Catherine has some sort of dominatrix going.
Yes.
He kicked down the door to Darlene's apartment to abduct her. And Darlene answered him with a stick lighter and a can of hairspray, and was able to negotiate. It gave her enough time to negotiate.
Yeah, Catherine's got 4 dots in Dominate and 4 dots in President.
Okay. Yes. No. Mary kicked down the door to the apartment to abduct her.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But while he was at the apartment, he found out about Lacey, and he wouldn't stand for that, and he offered to get her, which was something I couldn't do, but he could. He's pretty powerful. But he offered to get her, and he would get us both out of the city and protect us.
It is hard for a mother to deny the chance to regain her child. It was a miracle I was allowed to keep raising mine after my embrace.
Okay, so you get it.
I was remarried. My husband had died with 2 of our children to disease. A horrible childhood friend who I thought was my friend persuaded me to remarry to him. Horrible man. He's the reason I became a suffragette. But I couldn't quite get rid of him. My sire was my mentor. She offered me power, freedom, control. I could kill him, get rid of him permanently, keep my children safe, be my own woman. So I did. I ate him. Delicious meal. And I was allowed to be a widow overcome with grief over losing her second husband, which is why she became so reclusive and was only awake at night. I was able to keep my children till they were married off on their own, and, well, when I wasn't taking care of them, I was dragged off into learning how kindred works.
Good for you.
It was a lie.
It
My
was
first
necessary.
husband wasn't dead. No, my first husband wasn't dead.
What? How did that work?
On his deathbed, my sire sent a Nosferatu to embrace him. And then, because he was so hideous and repulsive, she made sure that he was banned from the city and away from me and the children. I only found out recently he's been around me my entire life, and I had no idea. He was just out of reach. If he tried to contact me, well, my sire would have done something. Or the organization I'm part of would have done something. But he's alive. He's in Philadelphia.
Were you guys able to get back together? Or?
To an extent. We reunited. Still my dear husband. Different. Painfully looked the same. But I couldn't stay in Philadelphia. If I didn't accept the position of Lictor, I would bring disgrace from the Ventrue, which would show badly on me and John. And they would come for me for the decisions I'd made, and my husband, my child. I couldn't allow that to happen. We'd fought too hard for the city, and I didn't want my own presence to hurt those I care for. So I accepted the position and I've left. I hope to return one day. We've all eternity. Perhaps there is a chance we can be reunited forever.
I hope so.
As do I. I hope you get to meet him.
I hope
Very
so too.
Well, where were we?
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
Vegas? You got dragged off to Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, Merrick said it might be a fun city. A fun city. That's how he phrased it. And
Yes, full of adultery and gambling.
And worse things. Worse things. You know, you
I
wouldn't
can believe
necessarily think, but yeah.
No, it's
a fun
called
city.
Sin City for a reason.
Yeah. But it's a perfect cover for it's a perfect cover for Prey. So many opportunities. But I arrived there. Surprise, surprise. The Amethyst and Craven and Prudence were there, and they hadn't told me.
They abandoned you. The resource they had fought so hard for. This city that Craven threatened my life over. They just abandoned.
Yeah. Yeah. Once that formula was no longer necessary. And when I came into their possession or whatever, they blew so much smoke up my rear about how lucky I was to be with the Hecata, because for Hecata, family was everything.
Oh, yes, squabbling bloodlines pretending to be one clan when they're really a cult.
There's so many. I don't even know how many Hecata there are, and none of them seem to get along with each other.
Oh, no, the Cappadocians hate the Giovanni because they killed all the Cappadocians, including De Camden, which is part of why Craven threatened me for being so successful at my mission.
Yeah.
And so many other different bloodlines. I mean, the Giovanni were really quite dominant until, 2012? When the family reunion happened and they pretended to all be one big happy family again. I mean, ridiculous. Oh, yes, they all hate each other for different reasons. They're not family. Maybe to a Giovanni, family means something. I mean, they have children while mortal, groom them to be ghouls forever or to embrace them. I mean, is that family?
Yeah. Family is a word that is used to make it just a little bit easier to morally justify doing something awful to somebody who doesn't deserve it.
Oh, certainly.
Your family.
You poor thing.
We all had it. We all had it bad. But yeah, no.
But
They...
you were defenseless. Completely dependent on those around you, totally uneducated. That is prime pickings for being a victim.
I had Merrick.
Yes, a trustworthy Zemis. I'm not saying he didn't do good. I'm just saying I don't. I don't trust most kindred, honestly.
Me neither. It didn't end well. Wish it had.
Of course not. Tremere are possessive, to say the least.
I I was still bound to Amethyst, which he didn't know.
She
He
bloodbound you?
huh? Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Coming off of that was bad. Coming off of a
I wouldn't
bond.
know.
Coming off of a bond is awful.
I
I'm
believe it. I've seen the effects. I have never experienced them personally. Some blood can't be bound.
nice, nice.
My life might have been easier if I could have been. I would have been less difficult to deal with.
Maybe easier for some. I don't know
When
if it
you're
would have
part
been
of a
easier for
cult where
you.
you need to drink people's blood, well, I had to keep that one a secret that it did nothing. But yes, I imagine coming up a blood bond would be difficult. I've seen the effect time and time again. A
Was
useful tool. Morally ambiguous.
was what it was. But Merrick tried to, that was part of the kind of the conditions, covert and overt, when we first got together that night, was that he would blood bond me, and I agreed to it. But I still had an active bond from Amethyst, and I was able to keep my mind in that relationship for a while. But everything
Again,
expires.
isolation.
Yeah,
Merrick may have helped you to some degree, but he isolated you as well.
I can see why he did.
If someone can make you alone where you can't reach out to anyone, it's harder to get away.
It was.
That's why I felt so desperate that I needed to kill my second husband. Divorces were very uncommon then. I perhaps could have gotten away with it, but it would have been difficult.
I heard.
I could
It's
have killed him with poison, but for some reason the idea never came to my mind. I was so set on eating him. As a kindred, not as a human. Cannibalism's
yeah.
horrible. No.
Oh yeah. I mean, no. If you were a kindred, you kind of might as well. But
I drained him dry. So, did he get lazy? No.
did it get? I mean, he was.
Did he get lazy?
Oh yeah, yeah, he did. And
Good.
he wasn't. He's got a dominate effect himself. He wasn't able to bring the memories of our life back, but he was able to write over the memories that Isabel put in her head about who her parents were to kind of like put our faces over theirs so that she would recognize me as her mother and him as her father. It was a learning curve because I didn't know, like, they were Catholic, and I had to learn how to be Catholic, and that's
The mind is a fragile thing. Dominate is nearly impossible to undo. It is possible, but difficult.
we couldn't. Merrick was able to write over it like putting white out on something, but we couldn't undo it.
It dominate is very powerful. I would know. The best you could do is find a seer, powerful enough one who could look into your memories and at least tell you what they were. Rewriting over them or exposing what they really are very, very difficult. Once a dominate is used, it sticks.
It was. But he was good to her.
Well, he was good for something, at least. Well, if you're gone from Vegas, where are you heading now? Philadelphia, you said?
Philadelphia. Um, hopefully this
It'll be
one
good
works
for you
out.
there. It will.
I hope so.
It's a menagerie of different kindred. They're trying to rebuild the city. John's there, Alicia's there, Islington is there. Others. You'll be in good hands.
I hope so. I'm not going to misbehave. I don't. I
give
only
you
ever
problems,
ran
write
to be with
me.
my daughter again. Like,
If they give you a hard time, you write to me, and I will write to John personally.
thank you.
Nobody likes a letter from their mother.
I'll bet. I'll bet.
Everyone deserves a chance to start anew. Those that deserve it anyway, and I think you do, dear. You deserve a chance to be at peace, to actually learn and grow, and flourish. There's more to life than simply your clan's speciality.
I hope so.
There is. My life would be rather boring if all I did all day in and out was dominate people. I mean, I achieved my ambition. I couldn't be a lawyer back in the day, but I am. If you have a goal, you can pursue it. These days are very good for women's rights. Perhaps not in other countries, poor dears, but
Yeah.
here in the States, in the UK, things are...
It's pretty good. It's really pretty
You
good.
can
I mean,
vote. I mean, I couldn't vote. I mean, I'd helped pass a Married Women's Rights Act where married women could have rights to their own property and not have their husband control everything.
hey,
Miracle, I got that passed.
that sounds. That's hard. Like, I know that we have problems these days, but oh my gosh, like back then, that was problems. I don't know how y'all dealt.
It wasn't a problem if you had a good husband.
If
My dear Davis was a good one to me and our children. I never worried with him, but with my second husband, well, I needed to get that act passed. And so I did. But today, a woman can have a job, a bank account, vote. Very thrilling. I never got to vote as a kind. Oh well. There are many rights you have today that you did not have then, and you can pursue your passions and your dreams. Philadelphia is renewing itself, and they need new life to inject it with. I think you'll be quite a good fit for that.
I hope so.
Bring your vast knowledge of alchemy, which I'm sure the prince needs.
I've learned some tricks that I think might actually be pretty useful. Like, hopefully they see it that way, but I think they will be.
I'm sure they will. And then, when you're not doing things that provide you service to the city, you can pursue whatever you want. If I was there, I'd be attending ladies' and garden parties at night, and donating to charities I care about, and, well, maybe dropping into the mayor's office, nudging a few bills along.
I don't know much about politics. Maybe I'll learn.
You don't need...
Maybe I'll learn.
You have the opportunity. John is quite skilled at it. I mean, he became prince after all.
I guess you'd have to be.
We were playing a dicey game of politics. Very dicey. Miracle we weren't killed for it.
They had it out for you guys. They really did not like your clan. And I say
yes.
They from the standpoint of the Hikata, but like I've come to learn that they were so in the pockets of the toreador elite of that city that it's
Because
pretty much just
Isabel
one
hated
continuum as far as
Ventrue.
motivations.
Yes, they hate the Ventrue because of the Ventrue Prince of Tampa, who was a horrible man who I detest with all my heart. What little of it is left. He
He was
killed my
one guy.
child. One man whose child populated the city, and he went on a killing spree, pretty much killing any Ventrue who wasn't of his bloodline or would bend the knee to him. It's a miracle I wasn't killed. But he certainly took my child. He killed my best friend and sister, the Primogen Esmeralda. May. And he killed many others who tried to flee to St. Petersburg when Isabel made her daring rebellion. He was a horrible man. But to judge an entire clan by one person is preposterous. Yes, he and his brood are horrible. I want them dead. Part of my ambition at one time was to become Prince of Tampa, killing him and his brood. But that doesn't justify hating the entire clan who is trying to help your stupid little rebel city. I mean, without Ventrue, it's hardly a Camarilla city that can be legitimized.
Yeah, for real. 100%.
I mean, is it really a good idea to make enemies of those who are trying to help you?
I think they saw you as competition.
Of course they did. That's why they killed my poor nephew Caron and removed him as Shoal. All because of that traitor. That traitor Ventrue who turned on us. I was supposed to be set ashore. After him, he was sort of losing it, unfortunately. But no, I was deemed a traitor instead, even though there was a different real traitor around, and, well, as much as they tried to tie my hands together, they couldn't stand how good I am at politics, and that I could actually gain influence in the city that outmatched the Seneschal's own power. I mean, when people had problems, they didn't go to Lictor. They came to me, because I knew what to do, how to quickly to get it done, and who to go to help me accomplish the thing. I mean, I was stripped of Camarilla rank for a ridiculous 6 months. I still became praetor of my clan, though, and I still ran things as efficiently as I could, bending over backwards, sacrificing my own time and money and skills to keep this city up and running. I went on 2 missions. Every Ventrue went on at least one of those missions to secure a vote. I went on 2 of them. And what was I given? Nothing but humiliation. No thanks was given to the Ventrue for all the help we'd given to their pathetic little rose city. They didn't deserve our help, but we kept trying because we believed in it. It was ridiculous. Utter sham.
After your murder, and the fact that people started calling it out as a murder, and that the Hecata were involved, they stayed in a snit about that for as long as I knew them. It was just constant complaining about how people had accused them of this horrible crime, and how they weren't going to help the city anymore.
You got caught.
They were not going to offer any of their aid to this city anymore. And like they, the city was on their own for being so mean to them. It was actually
trying to kill the heads of clans.
No, they had never done that. They were blameless. They were framed.
Oh, yes, because that unnamed Ventrue came up with these ideas all on his own. As if we don't have recorded evidence of everything.
They tried to tell me that you were a monster, too.
Oh, I am, dear. We all are.
Oh, I mean, you know what I mean.
We're vampires. We are monsters. Some are just more monsters than others.
That you had malevolent intent toward me in particular.
Yes, I woke up from day sleep every single night thinking, I'm going to catch that thin blood.
Uh-huh.
Much more pressed worrying about the city and Ventrue business. Goodness gracious.
Yep. Yeah. If you had a mustache, you'd be twirling it.
Oh, yes.
That is the reality. I was sold.
Yes, that city quite liked trying to paint me as the villain. They needed a villain. The Toreador needed a villain to hide and blame their horrible actions for. This city isn't working because of the Ventrue. The Ventrue are to blame. Oh, it's Lady Catherine. Isn't she such a horrible woman for trying to enforce Camarilla etiquette in a Camarilla city, when it is her prerogative to do so with her very own childer? Yes. See how horrible of a woman I am. As if Isabel couldn't even keep her own childer in line.
Adopted childer. Though I can't speak for Carmine.
Elisabetta, Charles was actually hers. Carmine, I never really got to meet him. He seemed quiet from what I remember in Tampa. I didn't meet Adriana either, but she was with Carmine all the time. And, well, there were a few others. Worked in the hospital, something or the other. Charles was just...
Yeah. There was
Elisabetta was the worst.
Toreador Primogen. Yeah, she is... No, she is the vilest person or person-shaped thing that I have ever known in my life. That I've ever known in my life. She used to be my
friend.
Yeah.
We were supposed
she
to
was
be
sold
really
as my
friends.
friend, too. They kept trying to sell her to me as a friend.
I knew her in Cuba ages ago. We were friends. She, me, and Esme. It was like... Elisabetta was forever jealous that Esme was Ventrue like me and not Toreador like her. I think Elisabetta blames me for Esme's death. Whatever. But I was heartbroken that someone I thought was my friend and ally betrayed me. I've been betrayed so many times I had hoped it wouldn't come again from someone so close, and yet it kept happening.
Elisabetta was big on blaming any convenient target but herself.
Oh, yes,
for her misfortunes.
That's one of the things I couldn't stand about her and many other Toreador. They can't take responsibility.
No.
I've taken responsibility many occasions. I mean, I unintentionally caused a trifle with the brouhaha, and you know what I did? I humbled myself by staging a public apology to the brouhaha Primogen Benny and returned a major boon she owed me to her. A major boon! But our relationship with the brouhaha was more important to me than my pride in that moment. So I did, and take responsibility for the small trifle that had happened.
And that's why Ventrue, in my opinion, are the better leaders overall. Because y'all think of the big picture. Y'all think of your legacy and not just yourself.
Well, yes, that's part of what matters most to a Ventrue is your legacy. Bloodline, both those before you and after you, mean so much. I mean, a Ventrue without a bloodline is hardly a Ventrue. I can name every single one of my ancestors all the way up to Ventrue himself.
Really?
And I can name all of my childhood. Yes, I can. I shall not bore you with the details, but I can.
I probably wouldn't recognize any of the names, but that's pretty cool.
You likely wouldn't. Oh, there was a minor trend in the city after I arrived, that since I introduced myself with my entire lineage, as is proper Ventrue to do, and everyone became in a kerfluffle to try and find their own lineages.
Good for them. Why not know who your roots are? Me excluded, yes. But for everybody else.
Knowing where you come from is still important. Can help you better understand things.
Maybe not for my case, but for the blooded, I get it.
It doesn't have to just do with the blood, dear. It can help you understand why you were embraced.
It was a mistake. I was a Noops baby.
Unfortunately, quite common outside the Camarilla and often the so-called lowlands. It happens, unfortunately. But you're here regardless, so the mistake cannot be undone unless both of you are killed, as is per Camarilla tradition. But don't worry, John won't do that. You already exist. If you went and embraced someone without his permission, then perhaps you would both be destroyed.
I couldn't. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Even if I could, I wouldn't. And if I would, I couldn't. I can't form bonds, and I wouldn't do that to someone. Like, just let somebody die a natural death. Don't drag them into this. Yeah,
I've embraced twice for different reasons. Perhaps you don't care as much as you degrade over time. But I tried to give them a try.
I think
Talia died, but I still have the little Maya with me.
I think it's probably a different situation if you're bringing someone in who's selected and you have a connection to, and you have a family to offer them to be a part of. If I could theoretically embrace someone, it's another thin blood. You know, that's not going to be the same kind of existence.
They would have you at least, but yes, most Camori cities are anti-thin blood.
Yeah.
Those neonates of the 13th generation are not allowed to embrace because they would create a thin blood. Seen as a bad omen, you know.
Harbinger of Gehenna, I've heard.
Yes, they're prophecies, and the thinning of the blood is one of them. And so, rather than face the fact that Gehenna is here, many elders will simply kill off thin bloods to pretend it's not here.
Yeah. Pickings are slim, but even if not, I don't think. Why make somebody a thin blood, you know?
You don't need to have embrace if you don't want to. I am surprised Islington embraced. That's very unlike him.
That's. Yeah. It doesn't seem like. It doesn't seem like Islington to kill someone. Even if there's a life that comes after.
He didn't tell me everything in the letter, but it sounded like extenuating circumstances, and he couldn't bring himself to fully kill her. I know not the details. I'm sure perhaps you can. I think he'll be delighted to see you.
I'm going to be real happy to see him too.
He's a good mentor. I wish more kindred had been mentored by him. They'd be less messy.
I wish I had been too.
You'll have an opportunity, dear. Fret not. The city is in a bit of disarray after the war, so do be careful. Who knows what treats the previous regime left behind. I mean, that horrible woman was killing kindred left and right. If you weren't useful to her, you weren't a quote-unquote high clan, you were dead meat.
Ooh.
Try to massacre the Gangrel, the Brujah, the Nosferatu, any undesirables. I think many of the Hokota were killed as well if they weren't Giovanni.
The Nosferatu are considered a low clan?
Oh, yes, dear.
Oh my gosh.
The typical low clans, supposedly, are Nosferatu, Brujah, and Gangrel. La Sombra depends on the city, there are Sabot connections. Ventrue, Toreador are always high clan. Tremere can occasionally be low clan, depending on the city as well. In London, they were certainly low clan. And the terms don't really mean that much. It's just sort of more of a indicator of social status per city. I say low clan, but I don't really think that, the low clans are less than I don't. It's just a moniker that other kindred are familiar with.
Yeah, I get it. I know that you didn't invent the terminology. Like, I'm not I don't hold any traditions or rules or anything against anyone because, like, we didn't invent them; they just were. So
Oh, but
I know
some
you
get
didn't invent the
mad.
phrase.
Some get mad if you use it because then you're perpetuating it further, quote unquote. But I laughed that they always accused me of being a high clan snob when I seem to be the only one trying to make an effort to have relations with the Gangrel, Bruja, Nosferatu, and Malkavian.
It's because
I
you
mean,
dress
really,
nice. It's because you hold. I mean, it is. It's because you dress nice and you talk nice and you hold people to a certain standard of conduct. Like that's why.
and most importantly, I'm a Ventrue and therefore the enemy.
Yeah. Yes. 100%.
Isabel, all the time, we need to have good relations with the clans, and then she'd do nothing. I mean, really, I think it should be more impressive to people that the Bruja and Ventrue got along quite well. We are natural enemies. And yet we didn't really squabble in the city. We actually worked together because we believed in unity over bickering.
That
Actually,
was a
rather
rare
liked
thing.
me.
That was a
Oh,
rare
yes.
thing in that city.
Isabel's all the time, why aren't you working better together? And she's helping perpetuate some of the bickering. Because it's her and her wilder childer.
Yeah. I mean, she would say a lot as far as
And then
ideals.
do something else.
Yeah, would do nothing. I mean, it wasn't even that she would do something else. It's that she would do nothing.
Yes, she was quite useless. I mean, she got all the credit for all those extra Elysiums we had. You know who did that? Me.
Are you
Elisabetta,
serious?
Karen, and I believe Imelda as well. We all sat down because we had the most money in the city. Elisabetta has none. She just, leeches off whoever has money around her. And we picked good Elysium sites, and we personally paid for it. So that way we'd have rotating Elysiums to keep the city safe. No acknowledgement. We did that all the time. All the time we were donating money and time and resources, and no thanks was given, only scorn.
The Elysiums were the only avenue that I had to get out of the lab. They were the only opportunity that I had to see anyone but the same three faces.
When I was under house arrest, I lived for my Elysium. The only time I was allowed to leave Ventrue territory, and, well, I wasn't particularly happy with a couple of the Ventrue at the time, so I didn't really want to see them. That was before I became Praetor. Things were somewhat easier after I became Praetor. It's hard to tell me what to do when I'm in charge.
I hope so.
Yes, people got rather angry that I was Praetor and poor child Talia was not. She was the Primogen. I'm still furious that Isabel made a child Primogen after we had just had a discussion that too many children were put in positions of power, which was overwhelming for them. But people got mad. Oh, Lady Catherine's controlling all the Ventrue. She's controlling everything Talia says. Well, yes, I'm in charge of the Ventrue. That doesn't mean I can control every word coming out of their mouths. I'm not around them 24/7. I either was controlling every little thing they were doing, or I had completely lost control of my clan. Quite the contradicting rumors, yet people believed them both.
Schrodinger's Lady Catherine there. No, really. Like whatever version is convenient for the argument at the time. That's
Literally.
fun.
Yes, I suppose that is exactly what had happened. If they needed me to be an incompetent leader wildly out of control, that would happen. If they needed me to be overly controlling and therefore a threat because I was putting my fingers in too many pies to say, I needed to be controlling everything the Ventrue did. The Ventrue stuck off to parties all the time without me, doing stuff about it. Yeah, maybe occasionally.
The truth eventually came out. I mean, I know that there was a strong underground of people who knew who you were.
I know.
Because
The
how
problem
else would the
was
truth have come out?
the problem is the minority were louder who wanted to tell the lie.
Yeah.
But,
The minority
oh well.
who would never be allowed to fail.
Precisely. Ah, well, I'm not there in that awful city anymore.
Thank heavens.
Florida. Ugh. Florida's a lost cause. All of it. Let it burn, sink into the ocean. See what I care. I have more important things to take care of around here.
Good on you.
Will you be looking for a house then in Philadelphia, or an apartment or something?
I have a little money to my name. Prudence was good enough to step in after I declared myself caitiff and left Amethyst.
Oh, bravo for you, dear.
I nuked them.
I'm sure you did. I'd love to hear it.
I paid for it. I paid for it real bad.
But please tell me how you humiliated this bunch.
It's a story. I will try to be brief. I'll try to be brief. But I showed up to the city. I was with Merrick. I didn't realize that was a problem. They thought that was a problem. So Leanne Dumort, we'd been a thing.
Leon, of course.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
Or at least I thought that we had been a thing. Who knows what his idea was of it. But after Elizabeth was deposed, he left the city to go after her. He was in the city too. So I come into the city. The Hecata are angry at me for having Merrick as my husband, even because he's a Zemiti. Even though Craven can just subjugate himself before Elizabetta and lick her heels, that relationship is fine. But they were angry about that. So Leon was in a bit of a snit about it. But he treated me like he was nice, and he texted me to ask if I wanted to catch up. And I did, because he'd meant a lot to me. You know, we'd been important to each other. So, and I wanted to kind of explain and hear what he had to say. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's talk. And it was a trap. It was a trap. It was an attack. It was pretty bad. So I wanted something done about that because Leon was Elizabeth's childer, and Craven and Elizabeth were together, and all of the Hecata were in like this love fest family, and they said they wanted me to still be part of the family, and I said, Leon has done this. Why? I think you're supposed to do something, and they wouldn't. They continued.
And they staked me for punishing my child, who they forced me to adopt after he had broken the masquerade. I had punished him, and they punished me because I punished him. But she wouldn't take accountability of Leon's actions?
No.
Of course not. Of course not. How inconvenient.
Yes.
Toreador.
Oh, I hate her. I hate her. But the Hecata, Amethyst, and Craven, they wouldn't get involved either.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't get involved either because they didn't want to compromise that relationship. But they didn't want to lose me either for whatever resource that I had. So they went into, they just devoted everything they possibly could to making me believe that this was my fault, that I had instigated it, that I had caused it. They did everything they could to hide what had been done, keep me from talking about it. But I didn't. I never stopped. And eventually, thank you. That's very healing. That's actually very healing. But they wouldn't take any action. They told me that it would be up to me to take it up with Elizabetta since she was the sire,
Was it Amethyst acting as your sire?
when it was convenient,
Ah, yes.
when it
Sires
didn't,
should talk to sire.
yeah, when it
Ugh.
didn't require her to compromise the relationships that were more important to her. And she wanted to make sure that Elizabeth stayed happy, and it would be the best thing for Elizabeth to stay happy if I stayed quiet.
Believe me, I've seen her tantrums, but I didn't tolerate them.
They, the level, because I really did believe it was my fault for a long time.
Because they gaslit you.
Badly. Badly.
Abusers do that.
No, if I found any fault with anything that Craven did or Elizabetta did, there would be some sort of a lie told to justify it or cover it. But Amethyst isn't as smart or as good of a liar as she thinks she is. Because I know that you get,
Indeed.
yeah, you get
She
this.
tried to tell me to my face that the Red Salon wasn't in town, when I had already previously been in the room where the conversations had been decided that they were coming to town. No, the Red Salon's not here. How stupid do you think I am? You were pushing for this harder than anyone because it personally benefits you since you're from Boston. I know it's in town. Stop lying. Sorry, continue, dear.
Oh, no apologies. It's chicken soup for my soul. But there's a lot of reasons why the Hecatoreador, as I call them, the Hecatoreador, because they are indistinguishable from each other. They will not thrive in a meritocracy. They can only flourish and be successful in an environment where they've been selected and won't be allowed to
An
fail.
oligarchy.
Yeah. Because you understand this, and I came to understand that Amethyst doesn't understand this. I tell people that I am a terrible liar because I am a terrible liar. And every time that she would hear me say this, she would like give me like the bombastic side eye, like I was just playing around or I was misleading people and being devious. Because I can look somebody in the face and tell them something that I know to be completely untrue, and I can do it naturally and with heart. But the thing about lies is like that's not what a lie is. A lie isn't something that you tell in the moment. When you tell a lie, that lie is a lifetime commitment. Because like it's not just you. Once you tell that, you have to live it. You have to make sure that you never contradict it. You have to make sure that there is no like data point that ever enters the system that will prove it wrong. Like you have to keep all of the lies, you have to keep track of them to make sure that wires don't get crossed. Like lying is a lifetime commitment, and our lifetimes last a long time. And that's the part that I found that they really don't respect about the nature of lying and how serious it is, or how serious an undertaking it is. Because they could tell lies to me. They told so many lies to me. They told so many lies to me. But eventually, those lies came to contradict each other. Eventually, I came to see evidence with my own eyes and hear it with my own ears that made it impossible. And once I could not, because I did every kind of mental gymnastics that I possibly could to find a way to justify what they were doing, because I wanted that relationship. I loved them. I really did. And I wanted to believe any possible truth besides the truth that there was, but they couldn't keep track of their own lies. They couldn't keep them straight. And once that came out, I couldn't trust anything that they had ever said to me at any point.
All it takes is one little thread to pull apart a rug. And then they try to sweep it out from under you, and you're standing there, threadbare floor, and you're like, oh, all lies. I was.
Yeah. So,
I'm assuming you got out of this situation and you left Hellfire on the way.
yes.
Fantastic.
Elizabeth, the surprise, the trial to punish her childer was a massive trap. And for me, and extreme, just very, very insulting things that nobody should be forced to tolerate. But they wouldn't call it on her, so I decided to declare myself caitiff, and I did it publicly. Because the Hecata were proving themselves to be so submissive to the Toreador that it was a disgrace to be called a Hecata. That to claim myself as Hecata, to claim myself as a childer of Amethyst Hues, and the niece of Craven Valentine, like that just puts a target on my back. That tells the entire city that I'm weak, that I am easy prey. And they can do whatever they like to me, and there will be no retributions whatsoever. And that I'm literally safer, and if I call myself caitiff, than if I associate myself with them. And in the end, I did prove myself to be correct, which got me into the hole. But Elizabeth, her big thing, her territory, she was in a snit with a rival baron. That was what all this was about. What was about the ugly ass casino.
Live without competition. Goodness. Toreador are so easily bored. I mean, I am happy going over law books the rest of my days. Toreador need constant engagement and entertainment. Goodness gracious. And Elizabeth's forte is social.
She had to have the Cosmopolitan, which this other baron, bless her heart, had been investing resources in for years to try to take it. But she had to have the Cosmopolitan. The Cosmopolitan has a 10-foot high heel stiletto shoe in the lobby. It's the tackiest thing you've ever seen in your life. And that's what she had to have. And they killed a lot of people. They killed a lot of people.
I've always said her taste is horrible.
Yes. In everything. But the rival baron was still kicking. So I gave her a ring and I said, hi, my name's Darlene. I really hate your rival. Would you like my help? And she had a great little plan to take some territory, and I was able to help her out to shuffle some things around where it would be more strategic, because she wanted her territory to actually be a moat, essentially, around the Cosmopolitan. And she did it. She did it. We were able to do that. I had my little testosterone clinic. I'd always wanted to do that because it's an easy source of blood. Like, you see low T centers, they're the hot new thing. They pop up everywhere. Like, people are crazy about them. Men go nuts for their testosterone injections. But a side effect of that, like exogenous testosterone, it puts the kidneys into overdrive and they start an overproduction of red blood cells. So the patients, when they start this treatment, it's in almost every case, if they're getting the dose that they want, they're going to need to do therapeutic blood donations. And that's just a buffet. I mean, so she had some money. She was able to fund the testosterone clinics in her territory, and I can diffractionate the blood so that anybody can drink it. So we were able to get a nice little supply. Yeah, that's one of my skills. One of the little alchemies that I can do is I can take bagged and it's like drinking it fresh from the person.
Huh? I could drink it as a Ventrue with my specific palate.
I think that I could if it was drawn from a person who fit your specific palate. Like if you can only drink redheads and we got a blood bag from a redhead and I diffractionated it, I think you could probably drink it. If we got it from a brunette and I diffractionated it, probably no good. But if it was drawn from someone who fits your criteria, and I diffractionated it, I think that you would. I think that it would work for you guys.
Fascinating. Do mention that to John. He doesn't need it, but it always helps to have extra sources of blood.
I'm going to have a whole portfolio of my skills to offer when I have that meeting, including that one.
His fast is over, so he should be less testy. You should be just...
Fast?
Oh, might as well just get it over. John and I belong to a religious organization. So does Prudence, the cult of Mithras.
Yeah, Prudence mentioned Mithras, the Lord of the Light. That's what she would call him.
Yes. And as part of the observance of religious rites, there is a fast. A member of the cult from a certain time period to another time period is supposed to keep themselves as hungry as possible. You are allowed to eat bare minimum to stave off the hunger in a frenzy. But that time has passed. The hunt has occurred. He can eat normally now, so he should be just fine. He won't be as testy. It's a difficult time period to test your devotion. Being at high hunger for months on end is not enjoyable, but it is a sign of your faith. But that time is over for this year, so it should be just...
Y'all are made of tougher stuff.
Oh, the weak die, dear. That's part of the whole philosophy, is the weak must be punished so they become strong or they die. John's a little... Well, let me clarify. The ones who are protected categories are the young and, mothers. The ones who will continue
like
generations.
Like the Muslim Ramadan, If your babies don't have to do it, pregnant women don't have to do it.
No, that's not what I'm referring to. I was referring to the weak must be punished. There are protected groups, though, that avoid some of the punishment, which are the young and mothers.
Like Kain, or?
Both? Both.
Huh.
Fledglings don't know what they're doing.
That's okay.
So
it's probably secrets, but that's very cool.
Sure. You can call it that. Anyway, it should be just fine. The fast is over for this time of the year. He won't be as testy. Believe me, I'm testy as well when it happens, because you're starving for months, and blood is right there, and you are not allowing yourself to have it.
I'm sure that I would be, I'd be profoundly unpleasant.
Indeed, but that time has passed. He'll be a lot more pleasant. Yes, I'm sure he will admire your portfolio.
I hope so. I hope it's got some things to offer. I think there are some pretty good tricks, including that one.
He sees people for the value they have, and more. Do not fret. I mean, he personally invited Islington to come to his... Believe me, the Tremere were horrible in the previous regime, and Islington and the others were brought in to clean the mess. You'll be just...
I hope so.
He's a good leader. It'll be...
If he's one of yours, I have no doubt.
Thanks.
But yeah, the blood bags.
Yes.
Yes, so that Baron, her name was Shay. We were able to stock up a nice little surplus food supply, and there's nothing that attracts soldiers and residents to your cause like easy food. I was able to invent a new sort of bullet, because that was one of the things that I did. It was alchemies, but I tinkered around, and I could make some weapons that were a little, I guess, unconventional. Once I learned a bit of chemistry, but I learned a new variety of bullet that can actually do some decent damage to Kindred. I made a new bomb, and so Las Vegas, they have a storm drain system because in the 70s there was a flood that just demolished them, like wiped the entire economy. And after that, they put a ton of money in, and they made this and they made this very, very intricate storm drain system underneath the city. But it's not like the catacombs of Paris. Everything is they're very wide. They're all connected. There's actually a map where you can get from point A to point B. And the unhoused population of Las Vegas, most of them live there, and they have communities. They actually have little areas that they can set up a decent apartment in. The storm drain systems are huge, and nobody was utilizing them. And with that, they're wide enough and they're connected enough that you can enter into the storm drain system from the far north side of the city or the far south or whatever. You can follow the storm drain city into the strip because a lot of the casinos actually have an entrance point somewhere in there. So you can get your soldiers, you can get your equipment, and you can move them throughout the city with nobody monitoring you, nobody knowing what you're doing. And she was, and when she had, it worked. It worked. When she took those territories, she had all of her ducks in a row, all of the soldiers, all of the equipment on site, and they were just there before anybody could anticipate her move, before anybody else could prepare, retaliate, because nobody was able to see her coming because the storm drains are that good. So we had teamwork. Teamwork made the dream work. And she took that territory, and she had a nice little territory of casinos that surrounded the Cosmopolitan, the moat. And you can control the supply chain. You can see who's coming in and out. You got eyes on your adversary constantly. So that felt good.
Well done. Well done, Darlene. Look at you doing politics.
It was real. It felt good. It was fun. It was gratifying and fun, and it gave them. I wanted them to see what they had lost, and I wanted them to feel it, and they did.
There are few things as satisfying as revenge, improving your worth.
It was really satisfying.
Of course. I mean, Isabel didn't want my help, so I went and helped my child take his city. Now look at it. It's going to be a brand new beacon of the Camarilla.
I will funnel all of my petty resentments that I had for Isabel, and have for Isabel and her filthy childer, into making Philadelphia great.
Yes, that is some of my best revenge against Prince Marius, Isabel, and all the others who've betrayed me. Philadelphia, we won it, and it will stand. Hopefully. I wish I could be there to help. I trust it will. There are good people there. I only wish I could give as much aid as I could, but unfortunately my aid is best keeping my enemies away from there and focused on me.
That's still hugely important.
It is. I'd hope that Philadelphia would be my home. Alas, I am often denied what I really want.
I hope you get it someday.
Perhaps
Even
I will.
in just short bursts. Sometimes short bursts are all you get, but they can help. I hope it happens for you.
Thank you, dear. It is a bit annoying to live so long and only get what I want so briefly.
I can't imagine. I'm only 40. I can't imagine.
Everyone thinks what I want most is political power. That is true to an extent. I won't deny it, but that's a mask. What I truly want is my family, and they're in Philadelphia. I do have my poor boy. He's only not even quite a year old now, but oh well.
How is he?
Ah,
My first year was
Fiorenza-
hard too. I definitely wasn't my best self my first year.
he's a good boy. And, well, after my child Talia died a few years ago at the hand of Prince Marius,
Oh, Tali. Oh no, I'm sorry.
a different Talia than the one you might know.
Oh.
They share the same name.
Okay, I'm still sorry.
Yes, he diablerized her to punish for the most ridiculous. Hmm. Regardless, after she had perished, well, that was a lost investment. Apparently, I get a bit listless without children to tour, and I kept my eye out for some new prospects. And while in Mexico City with Fiorenza, she thought it was prudent that I stop feeling listless again, and I embraced another child. It's very important for Ventrue to continue their legacy. As much as I care for John, he's adopted. So,
Oh, he is?
you will. Yes.
Huh.
Lydia Burke is the previous Prince of Philadelphia's sire. So
If he's the
he
prince now, I'm just going to assume that she's not in the picture anymore.
Indeed. We defeated her. I still consider him my child, and he still considers me his sire.
Oh, yeah.
And he will perpetuate my legacy, but it is also important that your bloodline actually continue. And I embraced in Mexico City Jeremiah Stone. I call him mine. A very sweet, intelligent boy. History nerd, I believe is the term. Buff? History buff, that's him. And, well, I couldn't simply abandon my brand new fledgling, so I took him with me to Philadelphia. And I'm Lictor, he travels with me. So, that's who Maya is. Afraid John was perhaps a little jealous and felt a bit replaced. That was not the intention. Simply what happened.
I mean, if he's a Ventrue and a Mithraean too, I'm sure he understands. I don't know if he has childhood of his own, but I'm sure he gets it.
I'm not sure he will ever understand me. There are some things I think are beyond his comprehension. As much as I've tried to explain myself and be truthful with him, he... Well, I believe I shot myself in the foot with perfectly good advice I gave in Florida of, don't trust anyone, everyone's manipulating you, including me. So, that will... It's all right if he never understands. I don't expect him to. It would be nice. All I ask is that he doesn't turn me away if I ever return. I don't think he would, but there's no guarantee. Princes can be finicky, and when you have a poor relationship with your mother, well...
I think that the older he gets, the more life he gets behind him, the more he'll understand.
We're two different people, dear. It is not always possible to understand. It's not always possible to understand someone else, unfortunately. Alas, as long as I can return and not be immediately staked or killed, I'll be happy.
I don't. I usually see things through blinders. I don't know how it's going to be in this city, but I'll see what the climate is from my perspective, wherever I land.
Oh, he's furious I left. He wanted me to stay as I did. But, alas, duty calls, and I would not rather burden him with more problems he doesn't need that I can simply handle. It is what it is. I will make the best of it that I can.
It's tough. You guys
That's
have a lot to live up to. Like that's the. I mean, people say that being a thin blood is terrible, and trust it can be, it can be. But outside of the rules, there's really nobody. There's really no standard that I have to uphold. Whatever I do, it doesn't really extend beyond me. There's a certain freedom to that.
Camarilla, the Ventrue, and the cult all demand a lot,
I
too.
can imagine.
Yes, yes. Hopefully, I can at least keep my enemies away from John as he secures power in his city and strengthens it. It's a bit fragile at the moment, as things are after he should.
Yeah, I can. I mean, I'm sure that if he's just taken the city, I'm sure there's vultures swarming because this is
Oh,
probably if you're gonna just like Elisabetta did to her rival Baron, if you're gonna snatch something out from under somebody's jaws, this is the perfect time to do it.
yes, well, things are still settling in. And the East
It's a big
Coast has been
deal.
rather impetuous. I mean, we've been fighting the Sabbat out of the cities for the past several decades, so Philadelphia is just one of the poor cities that has changed hands multiple times over the past century at least.
I will say this: after having been in Vegas and some others, I know that Thin Bloods and the Camarilla are kind of iffy. I have never had so respect for a Camarilla city after I lived in an Anarch city.
We're much
They
more
squabble
organized.
with each other like a pack of seagulls for a French fry. Over who gets what. It is chaos. It is like it's like trying to discipline preschoolers. Everybody is like touching each other's stuff.
The Camarilla still has infighting, but there's a veneer of society and politeness with it. And there are rules. We all agree to live in a city under a prince, and the prince enforces those rules. And if you don't want to live by those rules, then leave. Which is part of what was so frustrating about Florida. You had a concern, someone else broke the rules, and you were punished for it instead of them, because they were a favorite.
You can stand back and watch Florida thrive under that leadership style.
Yes, I mean, Carmen and her coterie should have been killed for helping a city in Florida go anarch. I'm surprised the Justice
Carmen,
God didn't kill her.
Carmen's Carmen scares me, and like
She shouldn't.
you,
She's
you scare
pathetic.
me, but that's a different thing. Like the content of Carmen's soul scares me.
She has none. She's a power-hungry little mongrel who doesn't know when to stop. I was disappointed that she was one of the few Toreador who wasn't part of Isabel's precious.
Well, she seemed to do pretty well with Sebastian, but I don't know anything about that.
Ugh, that man. What a horrible man.
I never actually met him. I only heard the echoes.
You were spared. I had to have business associations on behalf of my primogen in Tampa. When he was back in the Camarilla. Horrible. Horrible.
I only ever saw his snail trail.
Yes.
That's
Quite a horrible Toreador as well. And, I mean, Carmen grasped for power she never had. She thought she was so good at collecting rumors, yet she had no idea people kept feeding them directly to me. What's the use of a herald when she can't even tell the prince accurate information? And a herald, I mean, nobody cares what you say. They only care what the prince says through you.
Yeah. And I don't know. With Carmen's rumors, like, I don't know how she collected her rumors or how successfully, by comparison to you. But I would tell you something. I would tell you something. I would never tell Carmen anything.
No,
every information, every bit of information that she got from me was forced.
She's a vulture. She doesn't know. She thinks she's a social elite of the Toreador, but she's really just a party girl who never grew up.
Well,
What a waste of my time. And she had the audacity once to not use my title of lady. But, unfortunately for her, lady's not a title I gained as a kindred. I've had it since before the embrace.
if nobody ever called you lady, you still would be.
Oh, indeed.
It's just an insult. You can tell. Like,
it is my title. The amount of times people mistook me for the Primogen was rather amusing. Because of course they would. I carry myself as if I am in charge because I am in charge. I was the Ventrue Praetor. I ran Clan Ventrue. Unfortunately, I had to quickly correct people I was not Primogen, otherwise I would get in trouble with Isabel. But everyone knew I ran the clan. Didn't matter who was Primogen. Which infuriated the Hecata Toreador, of course.
I mean, I think that Craven was technically the Primogen to the Hecata.
No, there was... Amethyst was the emissary to the Hecata. There was no Primogen. They're not a Camarilla clan. They can't have Primogen status.
Let's see. The granddaughter was the Toreador Primogen. Alex de Torre was the Tremere. But in my mind, it was always Islington.
Because like me, everyone knows who the power belongs to.
Yeah. I was shielded from the Ventrue too much to know about them.
It was Talia.
Okay. Never did know.
Talia Banning, not my original Talia. Talia Kumar.
The raven-haired. I think I saw her a couple of times.
Mm-hmm. I think she's moved to California.
Good for her.
The war was a bit much.
Good for her. Shug was the Gangrel Primogen. I got major Primogen vibes off of him. That was not a surprise.
He was a friend of mine.
He's great.
When he was available, yes.
Yeah.
I just wish he and some others had stood up. But he was one of the few who actually visited me during my house, which was very kind of him.
Good on him.
He was a good one. Benny was the Bruja Primogen. She has moved to Philadelphia. You'll see her there.
Oh. Is she still doing the glitter?
Always.
That's great. That's great. I love glitter. Darlene is cringing inside.
You can ask John and Islington for tips to avoid the glitter. They are often around her and have to deal with it. Something about wax coating, I believe.
It's okay. Glitter is going to be the least of my worries. I'm not going to complain. It's so hard to get it out of your hair. That's okay.
Yes, I try to keep my visits with Benny short to minimize the amount of exposure to glitter. Not that she's not enjoyable to talk to, it's the glitter that I had an issue with.
She's a sweetheart, but dang it. I think she seems like it. I haven't actually spoken to her.
She's rather nice. I mean, don't tick her off. The Bruja temper is quite infamous.
I've heard.
Islington regretted the time we cornered him alone on my boat. Just the two of us talking with him. Quite the mistake he made.
What did he do?
Well, we're two of the closest people in his life, and he made the mistake of being alone with the two of us. Opportunity for us to gang up on tease him. And there was nowhere to run, because we were on my boat in the middle of the ocean.
To be a fly on the wall, I would have paid good money or whatever I could barter with.
I do believe he was blushing by the end of our conversation.
Oh, man.
Spared him by returning the boat to land and letting him disembark.
Oh, man. Islington made a good power play against the Hikata.
He did. He was quite furious at my death.
They tried to paint him as a bad guy, too.
Of course they did. He's done horrible things, but not as many as I have, and honestly, how can you look at that man and think he's evil?
I've done horrible things, too. I've done horrible things, too, but it was actually a good opportunity. We were going after something of Theo. I don't know.
Oh, the mage.
The mage, yeah.
I had to clean up so many of those messes. Again, I was in charge of the cleanup coterie, and no thanks given. Maintaining the masquerade. No one cares but me, apparently.
For real. But it was a major undertaking, and it happened in Tremere territory. So we needed somebody who could fire a gun, and Craven was going to go along, and Islington would not allow it.
Because he hates Craven. Even before Craven tried to kill me, he hates Craven because Craven's a mad dog.
Craven was in such a snit. He was so mad.
Of course he was, and he couldn't say no because it's Tremere territory.
Oh, he was angrier than anything. Yeah, just it was, and Craven was I thought my friend, at the time, but even then it was kind of funny. But no, Craven did not. Mr. Islington would rather have had Friedrich. There was a Tremere named Friedrich, just a little guy.
I'm aware of Friedrich.
Yeah,
a thorn in my side.
He seems like a baby. But he, would rather have had
better
Friedrich.
Than Craven.
Yeah. And that's what Mr. Islington thought too. He would rather have had Friedrich handle the guns for that mission than allow Craven into Tremere territory. And that was the diss.
Such a waste, though. Such a waste. If you brought him to the Chantry, though, the Tremere have the authority to kill. Could have solved the problem.
Mr. Islington invited me to come to a garden party.
Oh, how lovely.
The garden party unfortunately never happened, but the invite still meant a lot. The invite still meant a lot.
You can have one in Philadelphia. I'm sure there's plenty of gardens wherever his haven. Tremere Chantry, he probably shouldn't tell you where his haven.
Oh, yeah, that's okay.
You're still young and very human.
Yeah.
Be aware, most people aren't.
I'm learning. That's okay.
The world is a dark place. You must either embrace the darkness and take it your way, or choose to try and be a light in smothering dark. Either one is difficult. The darkness is all-consuming.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'll do. I'm just kind of taking it day by day.
I believe Islington tries to embrace the light, which I think is a bit foolish, but he thinks me choosing the darkness is foolish, so we have our tit in. But at the end of the day, or night, the goal is to survive and not be overwhelmed by the beast. So you must simply find your way to do that. I'm not apologetic at all for all the horrible things I've done. I've killed people, well, I didn't necessarily do torture, but I've done a few underhanded things from time to time, and I don't care. Doesn't bother me one bit. But it has allowed me to survive. About that laugh.
I get it.
In Islington right now would insist I have a heart somewhere.
Maybe
And that
you
I'm
do.
not actually a horrible person. But I am.
Maybe you have horrible moments, or maybe your life is mostly horrible moments, but there are a couple of good things that happen now and then. Maybe you
Ugh,
don't,
the
maybe you
optimism.
punch up instead of punching down, and you really demolish the things that you hit. But if you're punching up, it's a different sort
Perhaps.
of morality.
Perhaps. I don't go out of my way to do unnecessary things that are not worth my time. I mean, torturing people isn't really my thing. And I see no reason to destroy children unless they've made truly foul decisions that must be reprimanded even more sharply. There's no reason to do something. I'd rather spend my time actually going about my enemies rather than wasting my time trying to show how powerful I am by hurting those beneath me.
And that's the difference between commanding respect and demanding respect. And that's where the Toreador keep failing. Because they keep trying to demand respect.
I know. Elisabetta and Isabel would force their powers upon people anytime they didn't agree. I simply walked into a room and people stiffened without me saying a word, simply because of who I am. I mean, that's probably another reason why Elizabeth was so threatened by my use, because I was the clear choice for Seneschal, not her. She was entirely incompetent and didn't want to really do it. She just lacked the power, but not the responsibility.
Yeah.
Privilege requires responsibility. She just wanted to party all the time instead of solve the problems of the city, which I was doing. And honestly, I'm far organized and responsible of the two.
100%.
She's a party girl.
She latched on to the most overtly powerful thing, which is Craven. And just sort of rode his reputation to do whatever she wanted and called it power. But when we got into a situation where you can't punch your way out of it, and Craven's skill set didn't apply, she was pretty easy to outmaneuver.
She thought she had the social. Just doesn't. I mean, everyone knew Islington and I are close. I didn't use him as an attack dog, Craven, though. Everyone just simply knew you didn't mess with either of us, because then we'd mess with you. There was no need for actual threats exchanged. It was all implied. I'm sure you'll do well in Philadelphia and be educated more properly on the structure of the Camarilla and its functions. More political maneuvering. Do tell them the story of the Baron. That was quite impressive.
I've included it in the portfolio. Trying
Good.
to make sure that I give him as many reasons not to kill me on sight as I possibly
dear,
can.
I don't believe he believes in killing thin bloods or Kate. He's not one of those princes. He's, what's the term, progressive? Yes.
Trying to give him as many reasons not to use me as cannon fodder, because I get it, cannon fodder is necessary. Trying to give him as many reasons not to use me as first in the line for cannon fodder as possible, I guess.
Fair. There are still dangers in Philadelphia, but they're not a war anymore. Nearly died a few times myself during that, but most of us survived. I think we only lost a few kindred on our side. Killed plenty on their side. That was quite satisfying.
Good for you.
Yes. Though it was unfortunate the bank blown up.
The bank was blown up?
The first bank in the United States of America was blown up by a trigger-happy gangrel on our side. Imelda and I had just completed another kind of mission to get some information and objects. We had left the building, knowing the wiser we weren't the prince and her friend, because magic Alicia did. Well, magic. Prosthetics. And he blew up the bank anyway, even though nothing wrong had happened. Nothing had gone wrong. I'm such a shame to lose that.
Isn't the bank a historical...
Exactly.
Oh, my patriotic sensibilities as an American. Oh, no.
I could care less, but I do care that it was historical. And
Man.
money. The money. It was a bank. It's useful. There was like one ghoul in there. Such a shame.
I mean, trigger happy types sometimes you gotta let them have their gratification, but you can just go skeet shooting.
It's a decent gangrel.
I'm sure.
He didn't like me particularly, simply because I'm an uppity British Ventrue and he's Irish. Ugh. Regardless, I didn't particularly care. But he could have at least not blown up the bank and blown up some other building I didn't care about. I'm sure that place is going to be swarming with hunters after our war that we hid was local criminal violence.
That's okay.
But, even criminal violence brings the attention of the FBI and, well, Philadelphia's near Langley and other places.
That's okay. You
So
can get a lot of hunters. Hunters, if they're in an area, you can usually distract them with low-hanging fruit.
Generally, yes, that's how we've handled hunters in the past. It's just a little more difficult when the centers of American government are involved.
Yeah, there's that. I can go out during the day, so I have a bit of a buffer on things like that.
Yes, that does help. I'm sure they'll make good use of that.
I hope so.
You and ghouls can go out in the sun when we cannot.
I hope so.
I do miss them. Beautiful.
It's wonderful. I wish that you could have that experience too.
I did once.
You did?
Long story short, Roger de Camden is also the leader of my cult.
Yeah.
And as a gift, when our coterie of emissaries went to get his vote for St. Peter's to become Camarilla, he gave us 24 hours as mortal.
I've heard about one of those.
We still had our powers. Amethyst was there.
Blech, but okay.
Along with a few others. And we still had our kindred powers. But Our hearts were beating, blood was coursing through us. We could eat, drink, breathe. And so Amethyst and Iggy squirreled off away to do scientific studies of themselves, while the rest of us went and enjoyed the day. Shug was able to go visit his hometown in Scotland. And we just got to enjoy seeing the sun. Luckily, we were there in the summer. Scotland during the winter is much more miserable. And I got to be immortal again for a time. See the sun. A cruel gift, really. An addiction to get you started. Make you join the cult or stay there as part of it. Well, crave that again until he gives it. So, I knew I wouldn't stay. Edinburgh was for emergencies if things went wrong. Mexico City and Edinburgh were where I would run. And so, I at least took the gift and enjoyed it once.
I hope you get a chance to get another one someday. I do. Like, why couldn't he give you another one someday?
The cost is too deep. It is nearly to start addiction, and I am not currently on the best of terms with my pater.
I'm sorry.
No, it's entirely my own fault. I didn't want him taking my childhood away from me.
You're a good sire.
Thank you. I keep failing as one, but I try my best. Even if that is not enough, unfortunately. But
Trying counts. Trying does count.
not to some. Only action. And I made my choice. And for the first time in my life, I openly and clearly defied the cult. So, they're on my list of enemies, fortunately.
I'm sorry.
It's perfectly fine. If you don't make any enemies, it means you stand for nothing.
I could see that.
And I decided that my childhood were more important than my standing in the cult. So, c'est la vie.
You're a good sire. I think he's going to see that. If he doesn't see it now, he'll see it in the fullness of time.
I'm not sure he will. In his eyes, I've abandoned him twice now. Florida and Philadelphia. What kind of sire abandons her child?
One under duress.
You've practically summed up my entire life.
Sorry.
Kindred life is not easy. There are many times I could have died, been squashed like a bug under my enemy's heels, and yet here I am. That are thriving. Certainly higher in status than I used to be. So they can eat it.
Good.
You either let people walk over you, or you walk over them. That is the kindred life. You take the power you can get. Nobody just give it to you. And you did. They took power from you, and you took it back, and you made them suffer for
I really thought that if I just followed the rules and did what I was told and did what they told me they wanted to make them happy, that I'd be spared from their ire or whatever.
Yeah. Abusers always. Always. That's what the cult has been to me. They're the reasons I was bred, picked, made to suffer, and embraced. And who knows what other secrets they've kept from me that they've done to me, or those I care about. They're a cult, after all.
It's true.
If John
keep
tries to
succeeding.
recruit you, say no.
Oh, I'm not sure that... I don't know that I would be a good Mithragan.
So tell him no.
Okay.
Ugh.
Is that bad?
The boy actually believes in it, for some reason, despite everything they've done to him as well. Whatever, he can believe whatever he likes. At least I have no reason I have to participate in their rituals anymore, since I'm currently on the outs with them.
I don't know that I would be a super desirable prospect, but if he asks me, I'll find a reason to decline.
Good. Very good. I'm proud of my ancestry. That doesn't mean I want to worship my ancestor.
I get that. I get it.
Though, having been in the presence of said ancestor who's a Methuselah, do not treat what a Methuselah says lightly. I may not believe in certain things in our world, but I believe in a great deal of them, having seen what a Methuselah can do. And even what the Camden could do. Gehenna is here, whether people like it or not. And it's not Sabbat-like to say that. Simply the truth.
Well, maybe people will stop wigging out about...
No, kindred are old and set in however they were embraced. They will never stop freaking out.
Oh, well. So it goes.
I mean, your brain is in this horrible stasis as you continue to get older. Your brain's not going to change very likely. I see no reason why you should be killed. Waste of time.
Thank you.
I suppose that's a...
Hmm?
I suppose that was a compliment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is.
I have more
trust me.
important things to do. Far more important than killing one thin blood. Who is a rather lovely young woman and deserves a nice new home.
Thank you. That
And they
means
thought
a
I'd
lot.
eat you or something.
That means a lot. It does.
You're well, dear. And really, I would never try.
Thank you.
Nope, I will stick exactly with my palate. Ugh. I mean, we often vomit at anything that's not even our very specific type.
That's got to be rough. Though I mean, I guess it depends on how specific it is.
Oh, it can get very specific.
That's got to be hard.
Mine's not overly specific, but it is specific enough that it can be difficult sometimes. Some Ventrue have it so specific, it's like Cuban women with hair down to their ankles or something or the other, over the age of 30. I don't...
Gosh.
And you don't choose it either, it just happens. That's your curse. It's not a horrible curse to have. There are worse curses a kindred could have.
That's true.
I don't have to move every 7 days. Revenue.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Moving stinks. That I can attest to.
Yes, I've moved from London to Cuba, Tampa to St. Petersburg, to Mexico City to Philadelphia, and now I'm traveling.
Well,
I'm too old.
Once I start diffractionating, I'll see if it's palatable to Ventrue. As long as it's taken from the specified type, I don't see why it wouldn't be.
That's the problem. That's Ventrue's biggest secret. If you can control what we eat, you can control us, so we don't tell people what we eat.
I'm sure that Sexton can set up a double-blind trial.
Oh, I'm sure he can.
I don't... Maybe if I really, really researched a blood bag that I got, maybe I could find some qualities about it. But for the most part, it's just, diseases, not diseases, maybe the blood type. I'm sure he could set up a double-blind trial.
Propose it to him, see what he says.
Well,
Science was never... I only understand a little bit of science. It wasn't exactly taught much.
I never liked science.
Yes,
I
you're
never
doing
liked it. It always drove me nuts. But it's what I had to do.
At least you have the opportunity to do so.
I'm
Many
grateful for
women
that.
would be deprived of such a thing.
I'm grateful for that.
I'm lucky my father was even tolerant of me studying law under him. I couldn't practice, of course, but he didn't mind me reading his books.
You know, I heard that Mozart had a sister.
She was very talented.
I heard she was just as
There's a
talented as him.
There's a Baroque artist, Artemisa Gentileschi.
Yeah, the
Her
one with
name.
the cutting off.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I do believe that the young toreador Adriana, before she died, that was her passion, was that artist. Do believe. Not sure. I didn't pay much attention to these toreador spawn of Isabel.
A
had
good
so
way to
many
stay
of
sane.
them.
No, the story of Judith. That's a great painting.
Yes. You have the opportunity, many didn't before you. Take advantage of it.
Well,
You can't imagine my joy when I was a lawyer.
I can't imagine a better one than you.
Thank you.